going on, everybody? Episode number 2 of the Squared Ring podcast. As always, we have Jim, the Big Texan, and Bobby D. What's going on, guys?
Man, just coming off of a big weekend of wrestling. We, of course, had the show Saturday night, and then we had our TV tapings on Sunday.
Yep.
We can talk about this show because this show, Saturday night I got screwed really bad. I was one of the main events Saturday night. It was me versus Attila Khan. And it kind of went how I thought it was going to go. Attila likes to use some hidden weapons and likes to use some of his little posse, I guess you would say. Match started fine. It was me versus him. Of course, he had Stephen E., his manager, in his corner. Well, I guess I would say it didn't start off fine because the first thing he did was get out of the ring and grab a chair.
Sounds about right.
Right. Of course, I got the chair away, and then, of course, the ref took the chair from me. But, during the match, it started off just a regular fine match, back and forth. And then he started pulling out his little, that fork that he uses, that he hides on his body. And Nate, I'm sure you got some of the pictures that got sent of him clearly sticking that fork into my eye socket. So, that should have been... I guess I'm glad that the referee didn't catch it, because then it would have been disqualification.
I thought the handle on it would be a lot smaller than it was. He's got a big hand anyway, but that thing was like that far out of his hand.
Right.
He'd make sure he can get some levers to jab that thing into you.
Yeah, but where in the hell was he hiding it? It was too long to be anywhere up top.
I have no idea. I don't know if he gets it from his manager, if he hides it in his boot or somewhere, but every now and then you'll see him get it out and use it. But, the match went on, and, I hit him with the lariat, so I thought I had the match won. I was even pinning him for the 1-2, and as far as I got was 2, but Attila was still lying. But Stephen E., his manager, actually got up in the ring and actually hit me across the back, which made it a disqualification because it was interference by his manager. And it didn't stop there because then Sheik Prater came out, started jumping on me. So then Attila was able to, get back up, and then they started double teaming me. Which, thank God, Gary Jackson was still in the back, and he was able to come out and actually help save me and pull them off, and then we were able to go round and round, both of us, me and Gary versus Attila and Prater. We fought to the back, came back out through the curtain, fought some more, back to the back. It was pretty mayhem, but, I won the match. Just not the way I wanted it to, because I wanted to actually win the strap from him. But since Stephen E. interfered, the belt only changes hands, pinfall or submission, and I didn't get either. So I put down a challenge, and from what I heard, they accepted. I wanted to challenge him to a match where it would be all of his little goons. So it'll be Attila, it'll be Sheik Prater, and Peyton Ayers versus me, of course, my tag team partner Gary Jackson, and Bobby D. Since we're brother-in-laws, so we're gonna have right. We're gonna have, it's gonna be like a 6-man tag elimination. Basically, if you get pinned or submitted, then you're out of the match. But the match keeps going until it gets down to, of course, whoever wins all of it. But it could get down to me versus all 3 of them. It could get down to Bobby versus all 3. Or what I would prefer, all 3 of us, me, Bobby, and Gary versus Attila. that would be
That would
great.
be awesome.
Yeah.
If it
But,
gets that far, chances are it won't be just you three against Attila because the others will come in anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it like that, yeah. But at least I'll have some people in my corner to watch my back. I can watch their back. We can go at it and hopefully get even and get one ahead, you know. But at first, they weren't going to accept that match, but they went ahead and did. I think it was a little persuasion from the promoter, Herb Simmons. But thank God, because I'm really looking, as much as it pains me and pisses me off that I wasn't able to get the strap that night, I'm looking forward and getting a little bit of revenge. So it gives me a little motivation going into next month.
Oh, you're not the only one looking for some of that revenge. You know, I had Attila the month before, got forked a little bit myself. Had Prater this month.
All
You
right,
know,
I'm the
How that
only one
match
that
go?
hasn't been forked.
had Prater earlier in that same night. Stephen E., you know, of course, putting his hands on. He's always happy to come in there and hit them around a little bit.
Right?
Did
How'd
you
that
wrestle
match go
this
for you?
weekend,
Did you
Bobby?
I did
Did
end
you
up
win here?
defending my title. Pulled out a new finisher that he hadn't seen yet and caught him off guard long enough to get that 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Awesome.
nice. I do have the results from Saturday night. Um, we'll just go through it. The very first match, the open match, was Billy McNeil versus Big Nasty Glenn Williams. Now, Billy McNeil, he's kind of like our high flyer. You know, he uses the top rope, all the corners, in and out of the ring constantly.
Been
Big
watching him for
Nasty,
years and years.
right? He was he part of Gateway or?
Yes, he was. I used to
So
watch him.
there was an organization called Gateway Championship Wrestling. Um, I was actually a little late to the fold when it comes to that one, but they were a big wrestling federation for a time being. They would bring in like all the hardcore people, like Rob Van Dam used to go there, but Big Bad Ben was the promoter / one of the wrestlers. Kind of from MMWA, they kind of broke off from MMWA and started their own federation, GCW. Sean Vincent started there. A couple of the guys that still work in the business started there. But so Billy McNeil went against Big Nasty, Glenn Williams. Glenn is a rookie out of the Ace Academy. He's got a mouth on him. He likes to run it. You know, his name is Big Nasty, and he's not really big because I think he's about the same size as you, tall wise, Bobby. Right? About your height.
Yeah, but his mouth is real big.
But his mouth is really big, so that's probably where he gets his name from it.
He wants to be the
But
Larry Bird of wrestling.
right?
Trash talker.
Except for Larry Bird was actually big.
Yeah, Larry Bird was tall.
Yeah, it's Beanstalk. Tall and skinny.
But Billy McNeil won. He does this move where he does his elbow drop, kind of like the Macho Man elbow drop from the top rope. So he landed that on Big Nasty and took the pin from that. And then we have Joey. Is that how you do it? Joey.
Well, good, bud.
He's actually part of a tag team now. He tags with Brandon Beretta.
Top Guns.
Top Guns.
Side note, those fools haven't seen Top Gun. That's blasphemy right there.
They might have seen Top Gun 2, but they have never seen the original, probably. But so Joey, he went against the intern. Of course, Sean Vincent was out for that match. So when you got Sean Vincent in your corner, it's kind of 2-on-1 because you know Sean's going to interfere. But
like you said, he's been around back in the GCW days, around for a long, long time. He knows how to skirt the rules.
He's in a match later on that we'll get to too. But so something is weird about this combination with the intern and Sean Vincent, because it seems like every time Sean Vincent's in the corner of the intern just doesn't fare well. Like he's on like a losing streak when Sean is in his corner. But if Sean's not there, then somehow the intern turns it around and actually wins his matches. But so since Sean was in his corner, of course, the intern lost to Joey. Joey rolled him up with a small package and got the victory from that. Last week my voice sucked, and now this week it's like I can't get it cleared.
Okay,
third match though,
number 3 would be perfect.
Right, hopefully. Now the third match is probably a favorite of mine too, because it's got my tag team partner in it, one half of the tag team champs, Gary Jackson. He went against Joel Helms. Of course, he's got a manager too, another crazy manager. Lucky P. Larson is his manager. And he's just like Stephen E. He likes to interfere in his guys' matches, try to get one up over everyone.
And he might have a bigger mouth than Glenn.
Bigger mouth, oh my God, yeah. I could have smacked. Sometimes you can actually hear him when you're in. And I tell you, when I'm in the ring wrestling, I'm focused on the guy. Most of the time I'm not even. I like zone out the whole audience, unfortunately, but I'm just really focused. But that guy is so loud and so annoying that I can actually hear him and understand what he's saying when I'm wrestling. It just annoys the hell out of you. I'm sure it annoys the hell out of Dr. Drew.
He's like SICW's ex-wife. He's annoying and everybody can hear him.
Can't get rid of him.
Can't get rid of him.
Always hanging around.
But not Joey. Joe Helms. He likes his finishing move is choke slam most of the time. So he gets you up, choke slams you down. Except for Jackson actually was able to take the choke slam, and as soon as Joe was starting to pin him, he did like a crucifixion style roll up, and was actually able to pin Joe Helms. But that just goes back to, Jackson being a veteran. Jackson's got to be in his 50s, but he looks like he's in his 20s.
He can still tank a shot.
Right. Again, going back to that first podcast we had, Jackson's, been in the WWE, been in WCW, been everywhere. So he's got a world of experience. So he was able to do a quick one on Joe Helms. The fourth match. Now, this is a team that me and Jackson are probably going to have to watch and study because, again, Lucky P. Larson has actually brought this team up from the Memphis area with him. But it's the LA Hustlers. One of them's called Notorious Bradley Diggs, and then Rough Shot Lamont Potts.
Now, which one of those was as big as you?
I have no idea. One of them guys
was huge. I saw him walking around in the back, and holy cow.
I don't think he's as big as me. I think he's bigger than me because, if we stood up to each other, I bet you I would have to look up to him. And I know he outweighs me, so it's kind of crazy. But so that's a new tag team, and they ran against Curtis Wilde, Jason Breed, and of course Curtis always has his Wildfire with him. They're his little sidekick, little manager there. But the Hustlers got the better of him. And I say that because, Curtis Wilde used to cheat. LA Hustlers are cheating. The only one I've never seen really cheat is Jason Breed. He's always been on the up and up. But Curtis Wilde's kind of changed his ways where now he's on the up and up. And, he's got this fantastic gimmick of "Let's get wild," and as soon as he comes up, the audience is just chanting that "Let's get wild" or "Let's go wild." But like I said, LA Hustlers got one up on him because when the ref wasn't looking, one of them had their gold chains, and they took it off and hit who was it? Hit Jason Breeden with the gold chains to knock him out, so they can get the 1, 2, 3 on that. But the reason I'm saying that me and Gary will have to look for him because they're a tag team that's been around for a while. They've been tagging for a while, and they already made claims that they're coming after the gold. And so me and Gary would probably have to sit back and watch them for a little bit, see what they're all about, see what little things that we can pull from the matches before they get to us, so we know how to handle them when they do.
I say definitely got to watch some scouting, but don't take the eyes off of Attila. That focus off of Attila.
Right. So that's the bad thing. I'm kind of like in two divisions here. I got that singles that I'm trying to push and get revenge and get the Classic Championship. But I'm also holding one half of the Tag Team Championships. So I'm kind of in two different things here. So I just kind of got to watch what I'm doing so I don't take my eyes off the ball. Is what do you say?
When are you going to get your belt so you can flash them to everybody?
So some of those belts, I guess, are actually held so they don't get lost or stolen, because you don't take those belts in the airports. You don't take them driving with you. There's a big rule, too, that if you work for other promotions, and I do work for other promotions around, like, the Midwest area, that you don't take your belts with you. So I'm just letting the promoter hang on to my tag belt, because you get those jealous people that start taking one of the medallions off the belt, or starts trashing the belt, or you get how many bags get lost at the airport. You don't want to have your title belt get lost,
I said I was only borrowing it. I gave it back.
But that was after I discovered that you took it, and it was months.
Careful, that's how you get away.
I never gave a time I was going to give it back. You didn't specify.
Anyway, the fifth match was actually yours, Bobby, and we were kind of talked about that.
Details, Bobby, what'd you do? What happened?
Yeah.
What's that?
Details, what'd you do? What happened? It was more than just...
I went against Sheik Raider with Stephen E. ringside. Another big, fast, strong guy, and then you got to watch out for Stephen E. running around the ring. Like I said earlier, he put some hands on me, but kind of pushed that aside, focus on the job at hand, caught Prater off guard. It was kind of like a fisherman swinging neck breaker, floated over into a pin, and got that 1, 2, 3 real quick and claim my title. And now next month, I'll get my hands on him again, teaming up with you.
Yeah, Texan, right.
Not Nate.
No. Nate could be the third person, right? Be me, you,
and
Nate.
I don't know. I'm going to take Gary Jackson over Nate. Sorry, Nate.
Nate can be the special guest referee.
All right,
we'll actually have a referee that will actually be able to see everything. Right.
I don't know. I think when you get the stripes on your shirt, it ruins your picture.
Say again, buddy?
I think when you put on the striped shirt, it blurs your vision.
Well, they give the contacts that are like the bifocals.
Do you have to wear glasses? Because if you have to wear glasses, then you're totally out, because you can't see nothing.
No. You've known me for 5 years. I've never worn glasses.
So now we're kind of getting into the main events. Of course, you already know my main event. other main events because it was a triple main event show. So one of the other main events was Flash Flanagan. He went against Axe Allwart. Now, just to go back again, Flash has been receiving letters left on his car, brought to the show, left with the ring announcer about, you're not as good as everyone thinks. You're not the good guy. Just different little tidbits of that someone is watching him and coming for him. And everyone kind of thought it was Axe because in the last letter it said something about the Axe will fall. Well, Axe did fall because Flash did win this match and won it with a roll-up. But in the process of this match, Axe had a metal spike that he was actually trying to use. He never did get to use it because Flash spotted it and took it away. But after the match, Flash kind of held him in that hold, kind of like a crossface, kind of like Benoit's.
I kind of thought it was more like a Rings of Saturn almost.
Rings of Saturn. But he held him in that move and was, asking him, who is responsible for the letters? Who's responsible for this spike?
Where'd you get this spike?
And it took a little, I guess, a little squeeze and a little convincing, but Axe shouted out that it was Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan from the WCW and NWA. One hell of a promoter slash booker slash wrestler. He was a mix of everything. And we'll get to this in a second, but we did find out it is truly Kevin Sullivan because Kevin Sullivan actually sent in kind of like a promo slash interview talking about Flash, but we'll get to that in a second. But
and either way, growing up a WCW fan, that is just like
right,
blew my mind.
So what happened this last weekend? Did he get another note, or was it just?
So it was just the match, and then Sunday on the TV tapings, that's when actually Kevin Sullivan came out with his little speech for Flash. And he talked about Flash again, about, what did he say? I think I wrote it down. That Flash isn't a victim, is what he was trying to say. He's not a victim. That Flash needs to come out and show his true colors. But we'll get to that in a second because there's one more match that kind of like set the tone for the whole night. I mean, it was the main event, but it was a no DQ for the ambassadorship of SICW. Now, when I say ambassadorship, that is our, like, the guy that goes around and promotes the show, tries to get everyone involved in the show, tries to do, the radio or getting the flyers are all set up. He's the ambassador. He's supposed to be the one that talks up the show.
Almost the face of the company.
Yeah, the face of the company,
Did the rookie did it?
Well, so Sean Vincent, that was the ambassador. Again, it was a no DQ match, and he went against Brandon Beretta. But of course, where there's Sean, there's the intern. So the intern got involved in the match. Since it was a no DQ match, the intern could without actually getting in trouble. So basically, you had 2 against 1. And, chairs were involved. They went through the audience. The trash cans were involved. But the rookie did it. Brandon Beretta won. And he actually won by using something that Sean Vincent normally does. See, Sean has, if you look at Sean, he's wearing 2 different colored boots. One is, I believe, is white, and the other one's black. One of them happens to be, well, some people say is loaded, Because
Well, he
at the
says
end of
it's just orthopedic foot support.
yeah. But at the end of his matches, how he's been winning the matches is he's been stomping on one of those boots and then doing some sort of kick with it, and then it knocks the opponent out. Now I don't know how many kicks you can throw and every single time knock a person out, but this guy's been able to pull that off with this orthopedic foot thing. So anyway, Brandon Beretta, he actually took that boot off of him and used it on him, used it on the intern, and was able to get the victory from it. But the funny thing about this match is what I love is those two were going back and forth via the internet, talking about each other, trying to drag each other down. Well, Sean Vincent had a shirt on that said Brandon Beretta sucks, and on the back of it, it said, and his family does too. Now, Brandon Beretta had a bunch of his family members in the audience that night. So that's not the funny part. The best part is Brandon Beretta's family members had an ugly sweater on. They all had pretty much the same sweater and said, "This is my ugly sweater, my ugly Christmas sweater," and it had a picture of Sean Vincent on the front. So they were saying that Sean Vincent was the ugly sweater.
I was
So
hoping
that
you were
just
going to tell me that one of Beretta's 8-year-old nephews came out and hit him with a chair, and he was able to get him that way.
There were chairs
that would have been
involved.
funny, but yeah, I mean, chairs did get involved. But yeah, so Brandon Beretta is the new ambassador of SICW. I hoped this would happen, and it is happening. So I think Brandon Beretta is going to be able to pull this off a lot better than Sean Vincent. And
I think he's going to be a lot more man of the people, and you've worked with him a lot. I've worked with him a little bit. He definitely puts his work in there and gives it his all the time.
yeah. I
The
tell
next
you,
couple podcasts, we should have him on for a little bit.
Yeah.
we can do that. You know, when it comes to the Ace Academy, Brandon is normally the first one there. He does really hard work in the gym, in the ring, and he's normally one of the last ones to leave. So he does put in his time. Now, speaking when it comes to like Bobby or me or Gary Jackson, he's only a year in, maybe a year in. So I mean, he's still got some experiences to experience, but he's doing really good for a rookie. First year in, and they've already had him team with Bob Orton before, and now he's the ambassador. So he's doing really good.
We talk a lot about like Vincent's boot and whatnot, but again, how long ago he started in GCW? He is what do they say, a wily veteran himself. He knows a lot of tricks and everything, and for Brandon to be able to pull that off, that's a big accomplishment.
I mean, it truly is. So he main evented the show. That was the last match on the show. So you have a rookie, 1 year in, and he was able to main event. And I'll tell you, mine and Attila's match was really back and forth. It was a hard-nosed match. I'm sure yours and Sheik's was a hard-nosed match, but theirs was a little crazier. They got weapons involved, and of course it was 2-on-1 from pretty much the get-go.
Yeah, but you both got forked when you were against Attila, so still weapons involved with you two.
We got forked, but there were chairs, loaded boots. I think I heard they had a power bomb on a stage.
You might as well say it was a hardcore match, just about.
You had the intern, I'm sure, got involved many different places. We get one camera angle in the back. We don't get to see everything. Everything that's right there in the ring we get to see, but I'm sure as they went off camera, the intern got involved more and more.
Oh yeah. But so it was a pretty good crowd Saturday night. There I think there's just a couple seats here and there that wasn't filled, so it was a pretty good crowd.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I mean, it was just an amazing night. I didn't get what I wanted. I mean, I got a victory, but I didn't get what I wanted. I mean,
Yeah,
you
didn't
got
get the
to,
gold with the victory.
right. I mean, you retained your belt, so you got what you wanted. So all in all, it wasn't a bad night. Like I said, I did get the victory. I didn't get the belt, but at least I can say that I got one up over on Attila. You know, when it comes down to wins and losses.
You got the
And now
you
we'll
got the
have to
call
see
on
about
that.
getting one up on Attila again next month.
Right.
On the last podcast, I didn't know that Bobby, your belt was on the line this weekend. I didn't know
Yeah,
you guys were wrestling for the belt. I
a
don't
lot of
think we
times I don't
mentioned
know until I
it.
get there, and I'm not sure where Herb comes with these ideas, but I'm always willing to defend it anytime he wants me to. I love the challenge.
Yeah. So I mean, I
So,
couldn't complain. And then of course we did our TV tapings on Sunday. Um, and then there was, of course, the TV show that happens Sunday at 8 o'clock. Of course, that goes, like I said, on Facebook. It goes on Roku. It goes on YouTube. Um, and you know, it's just normally about an hour's worth of matches. Talks about different shows coming up, which Bobby had brought to my attention about. There's a May show that's going to be the St. Louis Hall of Fame is basically putting this on. Um,
Yeah,
we
if
don't.
they have half the rumors that they're working on, if half of them come true, you're not going to want to miss this show. And we'll announce the stuff as it becomes, or we'll talk about the stuff as it gets announced.
Yeah, the only thing we know for sure, Gerald Briscoe is going to be inducted that night into the St. Louis Hall of Fame. You know, Gerald Briscoe was on Wrestling at the Chase. Of course, he was in the NWA. His brother was one of the NWA heavyweight champions. Um, I want to say, I want to say he was a Central States champion too.
I believe so. Don't quote me.
um, but so that's the only one that I know for sure. You know, he's going to be inducted. Of course, there's probably going to be a meet and greet where you can get to meet Joe Briscoe. There's a whole bunch of rumors on who is going to be inducting him. You know, the rumor around is that he's currently still in the WWE. Um, so that'll be very interesting to see if the rumor comes true and
Yeah.
if he comes to town or not. But once
we're
we
talking
get
about
confirmed on,
Gerald, a 76-year-old, still being in it.
no, Gerald is the one that's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn. Need to get
Right,
that
right,
sound
right.
review. At
Now,
76.
With
I
his
tell you
mind,
though,
he could be, though. He could
I
easily be
tell
a
you,
behind the scenes guy.
yeah. Normally, lately he was behind this. As of recent, you know, maybe a couple years back, he was let go from the WWE, but he was a backstage person. So he would be someone that people would come to for advice on their match, on what moves they should use, and so it, you know, worlds full of talent on him. You know, he's got definitely got the brain and definitely knew the moves. Um, to get very far. But I know he was in Florida Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Of course, he's an Oklahoman, so I'm sure he wrestled out there. Probably wrestled out in Texas. Um, his
That's a
brother's
pretty good
name is
memory. I have all of Gerald's accomplishments here. That
I
was
said,
accomplished in a
I
freaking
believe
half.
he was a collegiate wrestler on top of it.
that. Yeah, him and his brother both would. I'm having a loss on his brother's name, which is forgive me, guys, but
Jack,
what's what's his brother's name?
Jack, Jack
Jack.
Briscoe.
Yep. So Jack was the NWA heavyweight champion, and man, who did he win that belt from? I want to say might have been Harley that he won that belt from. But anyhow, he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in May. We do have another show that's coming up earlier than that. That's going to be in March. And that show is going to have Cowboy Bob Orton on it, and it's going to have Tony Atlas on it. That show, I'll get the date hopefully by the next episode. But it's going to be in East St. Louis. It's going to be
At the Shriners?
at the Shriners. Man, this place looks like a palace if you look at it from the outside. But it's supposed to be very huge on the inside. I can't wait to go inside and just kind of look around and see all this because I mean it's an old building, but it looks awesome. But,
So I remember seeing a video of it, and it's pretty big inside.
Oh yeah, I mean, from what I understand, each part of the Shriners, you know how they have different levels. Each one of them had their own room. So I mean, it'd just be kind of cool to look to see what's all in there, you know, a little behind the door type thing. Well, that's coming out in March, like I said, and then the Hall of Fame is in May. No, also in the Hall of Fame, see that trophy over there that Bobby won, the Bruiser Brody Battle Royal Champion, you know, trophy.
Yep,
That
Bruiser.
he's gonna have to defend that night, because generally it's everyone in the locker room gets a shot at that trophy. So even I could get a shot at that trophy. Not that I want to take it away from Bobby, but he actually has to earn it back if he wants to retain it. Of course, you know, that would be the last man standing, basically. You know, it's everyone over the rope, battle royal, basically. So you're gonna try to dump your opponent over the rope. Of course, the last one in the ring gets that trophy. And of course, Barbara Goodish will be there, who is Bruiser Brody's wife. She'll be there to hand that trophy off and pass it on to the next winner. So that's going to be out of the Hall of Fame. That's a given. And you know, we actually Larry Matisic is part of that trophy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the Larry Matisic Bruiser Brody Battle Royal Trophy. So
When does that happen again?
that's going to be at that May show, that St. Louis Hall of Fame show that Gerald Brusco is going to be inducted in. So those are the two big shows. We'll get the dates to you as they come up. But I'm imagining, I didn't catch it, but I'm assuming January or February is when Kevin Sullivan's going to come in.
I was going to ask, when's your guys' next show? Because I don't think you're having one till the end of after the end of this year.
Right.
The
So
next
our
one will
next
be in
show,
January.
yeah, the next show will be next year, January. I want to say it's January 11th. Pretty positive it's January 11th. If I wasn't on my phone, I would be able to tell you. But
Same.
yeah, same.
If it was posted on the SICW site, I could get it, but it's not.
I thought the dates were pretty out there.
Well, they still don't have the winners from last week on there.
Well, see, that's the thing. The winners are normally never really posted, you know, because, of course, we want you to show up. We want you to be in that audience to actually know the results and who it is. This is just a little privilege that since you're talking to two wrestlers, we're able to give it to you, kind of let you know who won and who lost.
So the fun's not knowing and who won and lost. The fun is in being there, experiencing it, seeing the heart, sweat, blood, tears, all of it's put in.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's the second weekend in January. So I do want to say it's the 11th.
It would be a Saturday.
Yeah, all it has is till 2022. It doesn't have anything for next year yet.
You got a calendar? Can you see the second Saturday of January?
While he's looking that up,
The 14th is the second Saturday.
I was thinking it was the 14th. It's when Kids Wrestling does their John Davis tournament in Springfield. Yeah, that sounds right.
well, thank God we cleared that up because we don't want to be giving out the wrong date or the wrong information. Well, anyway, I was going to say on the TV taping that came out Sunday, started off with Billy McNeil against Astonishing Austin. How do you pronounce his last name?
Mulatalo.
Right.
I just say
Young
Rudy
kid.
Cole, and that's good enough, huh?
Young
Sounds
kid,
right.
flies around, awesome drop kick. He's got a ton of potential in this business.
Yeah, I mean, Austin is also like another newcomer. You know, he's only got 1 or 2 years in the business, and he's gone so far. He works a lot of different shows. I know he works for New Breed, so in NBW, New Breed Wrestling, you know, SICW, and I'm sure he's worked for a couple other ones too. Great kid. He's got a great personality. I think he's can go really far because he's really young. So being young in this business will get you places. It's us old men. Well, Bobby's younger than me. It's me being an old man that I pick and choose what I want to do. You know.
Hey, you're still bendable. You're pliable still. So you're not that old.
Not the whole body. Maybe in my fingers are bendable. But so I mean they had a good back and forth match, and that actually ended in a time limit draw. So really no concise of winner. Something I'm sure that we'll probably see again, just to kind of see who can better the other one. But it ended in a time limit draw. And then another Lucky P. Larson's Goons, Big Kowalski, which Bobby's had his run-ins with in the last few months. But Kowalski took on 3 people. He took on Joey, and he took on Boomerang, and an actual older veteran. And I say veteran because I mean, he took a couple years off, but he was around. I wouldn't say when I first started, but he's definitely been in the locker room of SICW and MMWA. Max Archer. Actually, I'll tell you, there's a video on the internet. You can look it up on YouTube. Big Texan versus Max Archer. Well, I just annihilated him. I mean, it's a great match. It's probably less than a couple minutes. But anyway, let's get back to the subject. Kowalski took on all 3 of those guys. And Kowalski, you know, he's a big boy. He's over 400 pounds. We're about the same height, I think. But, you know, I'm not near 400 pounds. But he took on all 3 of those guys. And he actually did a splash and a corner on 2 of them to secure the victory. Unfortunately, Joey was in that pile, and then Boomerang was in that pile that got the splash. I guess Max was that veteran that realized he didn't want to be in that pile. You know?
Now, you talk about the splash. I got to talk about Boomerang doing the springboard crossbody and literally bouncing off of Kowalski. That was one of the greatest moments of that match.
That was
I don't like
very
to
funny.
give Kowalski credit, but I mean, like, he is a freaking tree.
Right.
Planted in and just hard to move.
Yeah, I mean, you would have laughed your ass off, Nate, if you would have seen it, because he didn't even budge Kowalski, and he came off the ropes. You know, so it was funny. It was definitely funny to watch. After that, it was
Because that kind of reminds me of the old Andre the Giant. Taping a
Exactly.
lot. People run into him, they just look up. And look.
Right. Well, Andre was also another one. If you look at YouTube land, it's him versus 2, him versus 3, or I know for a fact it was him versus 4 at one point. That was just crazy. And they all looked like munchkins compared to Andre, Yeah, but so after that match, Brandon Beretta went against Richard Shaw. Now, Richard Shaw has been in the business, man, I want to say about 5, maybe 6 years. And of course, Brandon is that new rookie, but somehow he got over on the veteran. Brandon does this spine buster as a finishing move, and he caught Richard in it and got and secured the victory with it. So this Brandon Beretta, man, he's just getting better and better and better, and I guess now he's on a winning streak. I haven't seen him lose in a while, so he's definitely getting better. On the Sunday shows, there's normally a classic match from Wrestling at the Chase days, and this Sunday it was actually a tag team match. It was Bulldog Bob Brown and Mark Romero. Yeah, I think it was Romero. Now, side note, Bob Brown, Bulldog Bob Brown, I know for a fact has held that title that Bobby has. Because actually, I was watching a match. Giant, what is his name? Giant Baba from Japan. He was going against Bulldog Bob Brown. I don't know if you heard or seen Giant. I hope I'm not butchering his name. I think it's Baba.
Yeah, it is.
But this guy is just crazy big. I think is actually taller than the Giant, Andre. But how Andre's proportions looked really weird. This guy, his proportions was extremely weird. His head was like huge, but yeah, it was a cool match. It's always cool to see a shorter guy, and Bob Brown is probably not short, but compared to Giant Baba, he was. But that was a cool
For
match
me,
to
I'd
see.
have to grab a ladder just to smack his ankle.
Right. But he went against a guy named Steve Sirpert and Yashu Fuji. And I was thinking maybe he was like Mr. Fuji from the WWF days, but I don't think he was. There might be a relation, but it wasn't him.
Not him.
But that was also a time limit draw. It was kind of weird too, because so the time limit draw happened, but then they still awarded Bulldog Bob Brown and Mark Romero the winners. But they clearly announced it was a time limit draw. So I'm not too sure what the actual legitimate winning explanation it was, but anyway, it's always a cool time to watch a match from back in the day. The holds and moves are a lot simpler. Now it's kind of like 15 spots that you're doing all these crazy moves so fast. So it's awesome to sit back and watch something that possibly when you're growing up or your father's generation growing up, and it was much crisper, like storytelling in the matches.
You say simpler, but I gotta disagree a little bit. Like, I've gone back and watched a lot of Lou Thez, and watching that, man, I've had to rewind the same thing like 10 times. Like, how did he get from this hole to this hole? Like, just so much technical ability and like.
Well, Lou Thez was a hooker too, so
yeah.
So he can probably pull out moves that no one's ever heard before and get you to tap or get you to submit. He probably did that more times than he got on the pin.
Transitions, like how he would get from here to here. It's like I kept rewinding things. Like how did he do that? As part of that, always learning, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
So is there more
Um,
flash now compared to then? Or is it about the same, just less storied now?
what was the very beginning part of that question?
Said, is there more flash now compared to then? Or is it just less story now with the same amount of flash and flare?
Well, so I would say that they were telling a story without telling a story back then. Because back then, the object of the game was to wear your opponent down so you can get the pin. So you would see a guy actually work another guy's arm until he wore that arm down where it hurt so much that it caused that guy to tap, submit, or even just lay there and get the pin. Where nowadays, like you see people, working a guy's leg and then working a guy's arm and then working a guy's head, uh, not knowing that if you work a guy's leg and you get him down on the mat, there's no reason to stand him back up and work his arm or work his head.
Yeah.
If you're working the guy's leg, you're working his leg, and if you got him down on the mat, the goal is to keep him on the mat. So nowadays there's a lot more flying. People are doing a lot more riskier moves, off the top rope or off the turnbuckle or from the turnbuckle to the floor, from a cage to the floor, a lot of crazier stuff. So, I mean, you get the shock and the awe, but you lose. They're not telling a story by um, working someone, a body part or, even back like
I
in the
would
Mid
describe it
South.
more as the strategies are misguided
Right.
versus like what you're saying. Like, I'm going to wear you down and get my hand raised, and the fans are going to see me wear you down and wear you down and wear you down. Today's wrestling's more like, oh, this looks cool, I'm going to do this. Oh, this looks cool, now I'm going to do it. Oh, this looks cool, now. And just going all over the place instead of picking a strategy, sticking with it, and getting the victory.
I couldn't say any better.
Flash means money, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the guy who I love to watch black and white wrestling, back before it was color. To me, it's a lot of Lou Thesz. I couldn't tell you how many matches of Lou Thesz I've watched. But I even, Bobby calls me a historian, and I love to read about back in the day about the history of different championships. But I tell you now, sometimes I get a little confused because of so much that I've read. I kind of mix it together, so I kind of have to pull back and make sure I get the same results. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what happened Monday night on Raw or when AEW's Dynamite comes out. I don't know what day. But I tell you, I've watched wrestling every day this week, every day last week. It's not anything new. Yeah, the new stuff doesn't really do anything for me, I guess. I would rather, since I coach or help teach at the Ace Academy, I love watching the old stuff too because I'm able to pick that apart and then bring that to the future guys of the business, bring it to my students and look at that match and see how that match was structured and make my students learn that. Because the students can always do some high risk move that looks cool.
They can get them hurt.
Huh? Oh,
And
yeah.
can get them hurt.
Definitely get them hurt.
I said, there's a reason it's called high risk.
I'll tell you what, Nate. There is a thing about the business that if you can chain wrestle, which is basically catch and can wrestling, is what they call it. If you can do that, you can go anywhere and wrestle anyone. But if you don't know that, and all you know is to jump off the rope and try to land on your opponent, no one's going to want to wrestle you. Because one, you can get hurt, and then they know they can get hurt by you doing something stupid. But if they know you know how to actually wrestle, you can go any place and work any company. I mean, that's a lot of big difference between now and then. Anyway, we're kind of off the subject.
Yeah, we trailed off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. Like I said, we want to talk, a little bit of everything of wrestling. Me and Nate was talking earlier that Vince McMahon, there's a little rumor that Vince McMahon is trying to come back to the WWE. Now technically he never left because he's the majority stockholder. So, I mean, he never left the company, but he left his position as the chairman, I guess you would say, of the company.
Well, he still retains the majority voting rights.
Right.
But, I mean, how out of touch do you have to be on the same day that you have two more accusations for allegedly doing certain amount of things, then to release saying you have full intent on coming back and taking your prior position? I mean, that shows a level of arrogance that I didn't think even Vince had. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
You got a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the fact that Triple H is bringing back a lot of the wrestlers that were released. And according to a lot of people, it's like I said, it's not that I won't watch it. It's just that I can find other things to do with my time. But a lot of people are liking the product that Triple H is doing right now, which is funny because it was what he was doing in NXT. But as soon as he got sidelined with his heart attack that he had, Vince McMahon kind of snuck around and tried to dismantle the NXT. But now that McMahon's out of the picture, Triple H is bringing back the NXT and bringing back everything in the WWE that worked.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, Triple H is doing something that I think, both of you can have your opinion on it. That is a good thing where they're doing one of promoter-based or producer-based shows. And I think that will open it up even greater than it is now. Or at least they'll recover some of the face that Vince tore off.
Well, I do like one thing that he's doing. He's kind of cutting back on instead of naming the pay-per-view the Hell in the Cell, where the pay-per-view is all about the Hell in the Cells. That was a spectacular match. And that was a match that was supposed to be your last straw with your opponent. Like, you've done every single match you could to get the victory that you wanted, but you couldn't get it. So the last thing you can do is a Hell in a Cell. That should be the end-all of end-all. Now,
is that like the old hardcore rules? The old hardcore rule?
When it's a Hell in a Cell, it's pretty much anything goes, but normally you're in a cell. So it's like a cage with a roof on it. So you can't normally escape, even though most of the time, the big Mick Foley versus the Undertaker match where Foley fell off the top of the cage. I wouldn't say fell, he got pushed off the top of the cage. But, that should have been an end-all of your feud. And you can't, say, Hell in a Cell comes out, I'm just going to say October of every year. You can't just turn around and say, I'm going to end my feud in October. No, if you're in the middle of the feud and you've done everything you can and it's only February, well, you know what? Come March, I want that Hell in a Cell match. I'm not going to wait until October. So it should be, and this is what Triple H is doing, it's a special match. It's not a pay-per-view based around that match. It's kind of weird, but you can't set in stone a Hell in a Cell. It's like if you're in September and you've only done like one match, and then the next month is Hell in a Cell. Well, now you're gonna get into Hell in a Cell and finish it. Well, no, you only had like one match in September. Why do you need a Hell in a Cell match? There's no point of that match. Right. There's just so I do like the part that Triple H is pulling back on those. I do like some of the wrestlers that he's bringing back.
What about
he
the
brought
ones
back War Games?
Huh?
He brought back War Games too.
You know, I wasn't really too thrilled with War Games this time around, and I couldn't tell you.
As a
I didn't even
WCW
watch
guy,
NXT's version. Huh?
As a WCW guy, I was happy to see it.
Yeah, but it's not the same as it was in WCW.
That's true, but neither is wrestling today overall. So
Yeah, I guess you can't win them all, but anyway, like he's got a good thing going. I don't think Vince needs to come back. I think everything's going up. Their profit, their viewership. I think a lot of people is switching from AEW to WWE. Even though a lot of the AEW stars are Triple H's NXT stars, but so I think it's still a great time to be a wrestler in the business or a wrestling fan in the business. I really think Vince doesn't need to come back. I mean, he's still, like you said, the stockholder. He's still making all the money from the wrestling. He doesn't need to be in front of the camera. He doesn't need to be in charge of the dailies,
With everything he's bringing back, do you think that's why they fired Mandy? Is
No,
because
I
the
think
viewership is going up and they wanted to keep it like what we were discussing earlier, more for everybody?
yeah, I think I don't know, Bobby, if you heard that or not. Mandy was it Mandy Rose?
yeah, I
She
saw
got
that.
let go. Yeah, and so I mean, I'm pretty sure, like I told you before, back in the '90s and early 2000s, Raw was WWE was rated R. So it was, they were okay with the females doing some Playboy shots or some scantily dressed during matches and stuff.
Bras and
But
panties.
yeah, but this is the era of the PG. I know they did a couple shows where it was rated raw, when Triple H took over, but in general, it's still a rated PG program. Because back when they were going against WCW, they were rated raw because WCW was their competitor. Once they bought WCW, they didn't have no competitor. So they went after a different bracket of ages, which the next bracket they went after was the kids. So they already had like the young adults, older males, but of course, it's a company, so they have to make the profit margin. So they have to go over another age bracket, which was the kids. So their next competition was actually Disney. Disney was a company that was buying up a whole bunch of channels, a whole bunch of programming. So they decided to go after Disney because they had no other wrestling competition. And I think now with the Mandy Rose situation not having, and I know it's not an OnlyFans, but it's kind of along the lines of that, where she was shooting risky pictures and talking a little vulgar. That it's still not ideal for WWE to be that way. So I mean, if that's true and that's what she was posting, I'm sure that was the reason why they let her go.
Yeah.
So that's probably, now that that's probably what it was. It's not they sold the streaming rights. It's since they own Hulu, you can actually watch Raw and SmackDown on Hulu. It's a different streaming, Nate. It's not like Peacock where you have the WWE network on Peacock. It's kind of weird. I don't know the technical terms for it, but that's the streaming they sold the day after showing, versus being on the WWE network. But again, anything that's owned by Disney, so even those rights, I'm sure that's why it's PG now.
Yep.
Before I forget, so the last two things on that TV taping that aired Sunday was the interview with Kevin Sullivan, and I say interview, it was more of a promo than interview. That he was calling out Flash Flanagan, letting him know that he shouldn't be fake or mislead his fans. Basically, just calling him out, saying that he's basically half the man he used to be because he's not this goody two shoes guy that he portrays to his fans and the audience. That deep down inside, that there's a little part of him that's evil, and I think Kevin Sullivan is going to try to bring that out of him. But he's got I can't think of the guy's name, but he's got a guy that pretty much will follows Kevin around. Like Kevin
Anderson.
is this guy's who?
Anderson.
Yeah, Anderson, but he goes by something else. But yeah, so I think Anderson is coming with Kevin Sullivan to go against Flash. So we'll see how that goes. But either way, like him or hate him, it's cool to see Kevin Sullivan coming into town and be part of the SICW locker room. Wherever his meaning to this madness is coming from. But then to end the TV show, the main event for the TV show was, again, one half of the tag team champions, Gary Jackson. And he went against Peyton Aries. And, of course, that's another person with the Stevie E Devastation Incorporated group that Attila Khan is part of.
The Goon Squad.
But Gary, Peyton is very tall. I think he's actually a little taller than I am. And he's about built as me as well. So, he's bigger than Gary, taller than Gary, but Gary was actually able to pull the victory out. I forgot the move that Peyton went for, but Gary reversed it and turned it into a small package and actually got the victory from it. So, main event on the TV taping, Gary Jackson was victorious. And it was great because it was against Peyton Aries, who is going to be one of the persons that me, Bobby, and Gary is going to go against in January. So, to my saying is, we already kind of went up on him, since Saturday. And I'll say because, technically Bobby went against Sheik Prater on Saturday, but starting Sunday. Well, starting Sunday, we already got one victory over him. So,
Yeah.
So we just got a few more weeks of wrestling until the next big show, which is in January. You guys said January 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a big day. And pretty soon, I think January or February is going to end the big shows in East Crown Gillette. And I think either February or March is we're going to start debuting back at the Belleville Fairgrounds for our monthly big show. And I'm not talking about the special shows like the one in March that's going to be, the Bob Orton and Tony Atlas that's coming. The regular monthly show is going to be at the Belleville Claire. Man, I can't talk tonight. The Belleville Fairgrounds. Belle Claire. That's what I'm trying to think of. Wow. Glad I got that out of there. Yeah. So,
Well, it is late. Hoping you had a long day. Bobby's falling asleep over there.
man, it's been a long day for me. It's been about 13 hours on the job. Yeah. And then, this is the easy breezy part, talking to you guys. So this is very simple. But, yeah. Anything else you guys want to go over or talk about? Or
No, hopefully we'll have more of them updates for announcements for the Hall of Fame show next show, and maybe a couple more matches announced for it by then.
Yeah. All right. So I guess until the next time you see us.
Hopefully next week, although there's no match, we can discuss other things because there's always something happening.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Well, then it's been a pleasure on my end to talk about everything. So I guess for the Squared Ring podcast, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep.
Catch you next week.
Don't forget to subscribe and
like and
all
share.
the stuff you were saying, Jim, was it? Like and subscribe.
Subscribe, like, comment, share.
Yep.
Thanks for there. So.
Submit some questions you want to answer too.
Right.
Yep,
Pretty soon we're going to take this live, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll do Q&A live.
Right.
That'll be fun. No editing.
There you go. That'll make it easier on you. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a good night. And,
You too.
see you next week.
All right, see you next week.
All right.